Quackity quack. We are backity back, and the UConn men are back in the Final Four. After maybe the greatest game, play, shot, moment in school, and maybe March Madness history. I'm Colin McDonough, going solo tonight on this rapid reaction emergency pod episode. Special shout out to Mike from CT on Twitter, Stro, our friend who is a subscriber, one of 18 on YouTube. So please click the subscribe button on this video and become number 19. You won't get any reward from us as we don't have a sponsor yet. But thank you to Mike from CT, a follower of Duck on a Rock on all socials. He tweeted at us right after the crazy game and crazy ending. He wanted an emergency pod, so even if it's not the whole door crew, we try to honor requests of those closest to growing the Duck on a Rock family, all 18 of us. Stroh is also a great basketball mind in his own right, a championship coach. And let's get back to the championship coach, players, and program in stores. So the Huskies came back from 19 down. Silas Demery tipped Caden Boozer's poor decision and ill-advised by Duke coach John Shire's pass. Video on CBS Sports Twitter from all the angles showed Shire wanting Boozer to pass it ahead to two Blue Devils wide open. Instead, Demery tips it, goes into the hands of Braylon Mullins, who passes it to Alex Caravan, who gives it back to Mullins for a 40-foot three with .3 then .4 seconds remaining once they went back and reviewed it after Iron Eagle, Bill Raftery's, and Grant Hill's great call. UConn holds on 73-72 over Duke in the Elite Eight in Washington, D.C. after taking the lead in the final seconds. Their first lead since 2-0, basically 1837 or so left in the first half. So the comeback, the play, the shot are already going down as arguably the best evers of all those categories on some lists. What does it mean immediately? UConn men are in their 8th Final Four, third in 4 years, going for 3 national championships in 4 years, and 7 overall when they play Illinois on Saturday. With the win, they would face either of the 2 other 1 seeds who are still alive, Arizona or Michigan. The Huskies win the East region on the same day the UConn women, who are undefeated, going for a repeat, and into their 25th Final Four now after clinching that on the same day as the UConn men. So like usual this time of year, good times in Connecticut. So a few things we'll cover quickly. The immediate reaction for UConn and a quick mention of Duke. The long-lasting reaction and all-time history of the greatest tournament, etc., all those different lists. And briefly, what will UConn country be doing this upcoming weekend and a week from this Monday night as we record on this Monday night? Okay, so first, in today's age of a million smartphones, social media sites, group chats, Mullins' shot went viral in a way that puts UConn as the most talked about play school team in the sports landscape right now. The men and women both making the Final Four again is always good publicity. They've done it now 6 times. 2014 and 2004, obviously going for the dual titles. They can do that this year with the men winning number 7, like I said, and the women getting to 13. But it's always good publicity for the school, and they're talked a lot about in March. But a game and a shot like this is one of those moments that everyone talks about that night, the next day, not just in Connecticut, and not just in the region, but nationally. It's a game that's a did you see that game last night, where everyone knows what game you're talking about type of game, if that makes sense, right? UConn got through Michigan State, another late game, just like the first 2 rounds in the Sweet 16. They blew a 19-point lead themselves, held on, and it looked like they were getting run out of the gym by Duke in the Elite Eight. The Boozer twins were accomplishing things the McDonough twins couldn't do in their wildest dreams. Terrace Reed, the region MVP, was keeping the Huskies from full embarrassment. Duke's defense was stymieing the UConn offense. There were some possessions where it looked like Duke had 6 guys to 5 or 6 guys to 4 Huskies. Um, UConn's defense just couldn't string together stops. Um, I did say at the time, not that I deserve any uh, prognostication credit for anything, but I'm usually actually positive with UConn compared to some of the other teams we've rooted for and been a part of. And I always kind of see them never out of a game because that's just what history has shown. So you can never give up on them, especially against non-conference teams in the NCAA tournament, which Dan Hurley kind of alluded to too. So when they had the deficit at 15 at half instead of 19, instead of Duke getting it above 20, they had a chance. Duke didn't fully finish them off. And even in the second half, Duke couldn't finish them off those first 5 minutes. UConn stayed within striking distance enough and then began to chip away. UConn does what UConn does in the second half, and Duke does what Duke now does in the tournament, along with other programs who play UConn or just don't have what it takes to accomplish the things that UConn does. So Duke becomes stagnant on offense, not moving the ball enough, not scoring off assists. UConn chips away, getting, down to 10, staying, close enough where Duke doesn't have full control, getting it to single digits. I think Terrace Reed said after once they got it to single digits, UConn knew it was their game to take. Then 5 points with under 4 left. Demery makes a huge basket with 3 minutes plus to get it to one possession game. And then, in the final minute, Duke is up by 4, 70 to 66. Um, Caravan hits a huge three like he always does. The Duke defense didn't defend the screen well. Um, Caravan, who didn't have a good game, stayed poised, stayed a leader. And then it's a 1 point game with 50 seconds left. So instead of Duke being up 4, or if Caravan misses that shot, they're up 4 with the ball and 50 seconds left. It's 70 to 69. And again, this is one of those types of games where everything that could go wrong for Duke does. And if, a few different plays or shots or turnovers or rebounds, etc., if they don't go UConn's way, then Duke probably wins. Still, Cameron Boozer gets the lead back up to 3 for Duke, and it's a one possession game. UConn has the ball, no time on the shot clock. Have to see what happens. Demery gets fouled by Boozer with 10 seconds left. He misses a first, makes the second. UConn traps instead of fouling right away. The brilliant coaching staff of UConn had a brilliant second half. Coach Dan Hurley, Kamani Young, and new coach at Boston College, Luke Murray. We'll have more on this maybe in the offseason, but Kamani Young deserves a chance to be a head coach too. But Hurley and those two have just been outstanding for the last few years, obviously. So anyway, Caden Boozer has it. He could either throw it to the height of the Washington Monument down the court to two other Blue Devils wide open, or the main thing would be just hold the ball, force UConn to foul him with 5 or 6 seconds left. That second option most likely would be the best to just end the game. He does neither. He tries to pass it, and again, which his coach, who is becoming a bit of a choke artist, on multiple tweets, seemed to want him to do, pass it ahead. And again, then Mullins hits the shot of a lifetime. UConn makes the plays in March that nobody else does consistently. They have the best team, coaches, and program in the nation. Since 1999 with Jim Calhoun, Kevin Ollie, Dan Hurley, yes, they've had NIT years. Yes, they've had some losing seasons. Yes, they've lost in the first weekend either as a higher seed or just haven't pulled an upset to get to the Sweet 16. But they've won 18 straight games, Sweet 16 or later. It is truly unbelievable as a UConn alum, fan, etc. to think like this. But now I really feel like if you're a college basketball fan of any other school, every March you have to think when UConn is down, they're never out. until the final buzzer sounds, right? So again, if you think about this, Duke, who choked the lead away in the Final Four last year against Houston, they blow it again. A blue blood that their heir apparent coach to a legendary coach, John Shire takes over for Coach K. He can't accomplish yet what UConn's own version of that could. So Shire has all the best players. He can't finish, can't get to a title game, let alone win it yet, after playing and taking over for Coach K. Just a quick aside, maybe they should have hired Nolan Smith, another Duke guard who's in coaching at Tennessee State. Um, Glad Kevin Ollie, after playing for, assisting for, and taking over for our legend Jim McCalhoun, knew how to finish a job and win a big one for his alma mater. And kudos to the current hero and all-time hero that he's becoming, Dan Hurley. Him yelling during Mullins' interview was great, but crediting Calhoun, Gino Auriemma, and Ollie after the win to show the greatness, sustained greatness of UConn basketball was greatness in itself. Speaking of the greatness and magnitude of it, let's look at that lens for a moment, a wider lens. UConn fans have as many March Madness moments in the modern era as anyone, the most by far, including the men and the women. And this is an example of the rich getting richer. The Mullins shot may top them all as far as most unbelievable. Obviously, Kemba Walker, his step back buzzer beater against Pitt. I feel even though it's in the Big East tournament, not NCAA tournament, is up there as far as legendary right at the buzzer. But if you think of Mullins in the Elite Eight against favored Duke, one seed Duke, overall one seed Duke, they came back down from 19. Plus, the other thing with the play, it was a turnover that went immediately into a shot, a winning shot from 40 feet. So that puts it up the list of UConn and March moments. And some will make the argument at the top for both those categories. With that play, it's similar. I know as a Patriots fan, this is easy, whereas some people would use other plays against this. But the Malcolm Butler interception, where it was snatching victory from the jaws of defeat in one fell swoop. Again, Demery and Mullins both contesting Boozer's pass, forcing the turnover right into UConn winning. It's such a quick turnaround instead of, okay, this team has the ball, they're going to score. Or, oh, in football, this team's driving down for the winning field goal or touchdown. Or even in, it'd almost be in baseball, like, a winning three-run homer grand slam down. But again, it was such a quick turnaround. Again, it could be at the top of any of those categories that we talked about. But I did get a chance to talk to a former colleague of ours at the Hartford Courant, or former Hartford Courant employee just like us from our old Agate days, Matt Conyers. He was an award-winning sports reporter. He's gone on to championship success as well in coaching. So he sent his list to Duck on a Rock of the UConn best plays and shots. So this is his top five. And again, we would love in the comments from listeners. Maybe we could do further posts and things like this in the off season where we go deeper into this. But this is Matthew Conyers' top five. So he has Talik Brown's heave in the 2002 Big East title game against Pitt as number five. That gave the Huskies the Big East championship. Number four, he has the Hamilton. I may be a McDonough, but I can't do Sean McDonough any justice. But Rip Hamilton beating Washington at the buzzer in the 1998 Sweet 16. Number three, Ray Allen's wild runner in the 1996 Big East Championship game to beat Allen Iverson and Georgetown. And then Conyers put Mullins' shot against Duke at number two. And then at number one, Tate George in the 1990 Sweet 16, the pass, obviously from Hamden's own Scott Burrell, the Hamden High alum. And that shot from George is important as any to put UConn on the national map in basketball. So where is Kemba? You asked just off the list. He said since it was a Big East tournament quarterfinal, although he did admit It began the 2011 run as kind of a major catalyst after beating DePaul and Georgetown in the first two Big East games to go 5 games in 5 days and then 6 games in the NCAA tournament. So don't worry, anyone who says Kemba's right up there. I texted him that to me, Mullins and Kemba's shots um, are the two most iconic moments that if you were to ask someone around the country about UConn men's basketball, they would think of those two moments. So the six, maybe a week from now, seven national titles are the most important, obviously, the most significant. Um, and even thinking back, yesterday, some people made the argument on Twitter that the 1999 national championship, it echoed 27 years later against Duke in an earlier round the other day yesterday. But in today's social media and viral age, like the Mullins shot may become more famous than Kemba's. And it's a shot that we'll all talk about forever, even non-UConn fans, just in college basketball history. So when we look at this, right, if you think about all-time moments and all-time plays, even if the Huskies do get their seventh national championship trophy, maybe the game against Illinois or Arizona or Michigan is crazy as well. If it is, then a lot of us might have to go to the doctors. But this is a chance to kind of be that catalyst or that just one shining moment from another UConn national championship run. Um, as I said, the UConn women will be in Phoenix next week for the Final Four. Um, at recording, UCLA was the only other team to clinch a spot. The UConn men will face Illinois. That'll be a rematch of the Elite Eight in Boston 2 years ago, where the Huskies, arguably the greatest team in school history, the 2024 UConn Huskies, again, maybe 1999 has an argument. But they used the Huskies 2 years ago used a 30-0 run to reach the Final Four. I do like Brad Underwood a lot. I'm glad that Illinois made it. They're a team that's been knocking on the door. And last time Illinois was in the Final Four in 2005, a year after the 2004 UConn Huskies won with Emeka Okafor leading the way, which was probably my favorite childhood UConn team just because I was 13, a little older than the 99 season. So that was another team that had a great comeback win down eight and finished off Duke in the Final Four after being down eight, going on a 12-3 run. I believe someone could correct me in the comments. But anyway, that 2005 team the next year, UConn obviously exited the first weekend. Illinois became a team that I feel like captured the nation um, with the the exuberant D Brown, who had the headband, the mouth guard, puffing out the Illinois on his jersey. Obviously Darren Williams and Luther Head, and they had their own magic on the way to the Final Four. So playing Illinois will bring back memories of 2 years ago to a lot of people. I think on the Final Four stage, it'll be cool to see the Fighting Illini back there. Unfortunately, that team lost the title game to UNC, but that was a favorite non-UConn team to root for me. The Huskies also already beat them in New York this year. Had I am not that worried, but again, like I said, I don't tend to worry about UConn as much as I did from maybe 2009 to 2014, from when I was a student to a graduate and early alum. So then on the other side, like I said, they would play Michigan or Arizona, both with long title droughts. Michigan, 1989 in a game that Seton Hall probably should have won on Michigan won on a phantom foul call. Arizona have not won the championship since 1997. Miles Simon, Mike Bibby's team, who beat Rick Pitino's Kentucky team. And then Arizona hasn't made a Final Four since their 0-1 team with Gilbert Arenas, Richard Jefferson, Luke Walton, who lost to Duke in the final game of that Final Four. Again, two other teams. Michigan's been knocking on the door of a national championship, losing in 2013 to Louisville, 2018 to Villanova, and Arizona had lost five straight Elite Eights, finally getting over the hump. Those are two teams that, along with Duke, have probably been the most consistent looking best teams all year. But again, didn't help Duke, right? So now we're going to see what happens next weekend. Can the UConn men and women get a dual championship like 2004 and 2014? And especially on the men's side, can Hurley, Mullins, Caravan, Reed, Solo Ball, anyone who you want to name of the heroes yesterday, can they continue the March magic? So again, if you think about it, will the UConn men beat Illinois, Michigan, and Arizona on the way to the championship? We'll hopefully do some pods or posts about it. After the last few years with Hurley at the helm, and after yesterday with the greatest moment in Husky history, how can you doubt UConn? You can't. So please like our videos, follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help us get our long-awaited sponsor. And um, as you watch the UConn men and women possibly get their short and briefly waited 2026 championships, not a long drought here in Connecticut. But please like, subscribe, and follow us as you do that, as you do your watching of the final 2 to 3 UConn games of this season. And thank you for always being a part of our flock.